Nobody expected Jay-Z, the man who moves in silence, the man who never reacts publicly, the man whose words can shift entire industries, to step into the battlefield. But tonight, the unthinkable happened. Jay-Z sent a direct, chilling, unmistakable message to T.I., and the entire hip-hop world is frozen, trying to understand what this means, and what's about to happen next. Because this didn't start with a song. It didn't start with a diss. It didn't even start with a rumor. It started with T.I.'s son, King Harris, crossing a line that no one in hip-hop history has ever dared to cross. A line so disrespectful, so personal, so deeply offensive that even the OGs, the legends, the pioneers were left speechless. King Harris made comments aimed at 50 Cent's late mother. Not his career. Not his music. His mother's grave. That alone was enough to ignite a firestorm. But what came next shook the industry to its core. 50 Cent reacted instantly, of course, everyone expected that. But what nobody expected, what nobody even imagined, was that Jay-Z would step in from the shadows with a message that insiders are describing as not a warning, not a threat, but a final notice. Because Jay-Z doesn't involve himself unless something is dangerously out of balance. He doesn't speak unless something threatens the foundation of the culture itself. And according to one insider, Jay felt a line was crossed that can never be uncrossed. The message he sent, whether through words, power, or action, wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. It was icy, calculated, and aimed directly at T.I., not his son, T.I. himself. And that message? It has now set off a chain reaction that could end alliances, break friendships, and reshape the relationships of hip-hop royalty forever. Because what Jay-Z said behind closed doors is now beginning to leak out. And once the full truth emerges, hip-hop will not be the same. Long before Jay-Z's chilling message shook the industry, long before King Harris unleashed the single most disrespectful statement hip-hop has seen in years, long before 50 Cent even opened his mouth, there was already a silent tension brewing beneath the surface of rap culture. A tension made of history, alliances, power, legacy, and the quiet, unspoken rules that have held the industry together for decades. Because in hip-hop, there are lines you don't cross. There are names you don't mention. And there are mothers you never disrespect. Especially not the mother of a man like 50 Cent, a man whose entire rise to power is rooted in pain, survival, and the memory of the woman who shaped him. But King Harris, T.I.'s son, ignored all of that. This wasn't playful trolling. This wasn't hip-hop banter. This was a direct insult aimed at the grave of a woman who died under tragic, mysterious circumstances before 50 ever became famous. Even veteran rappers were left stunned. One insider described it like this. It wasn't just disrespect, it was sacrilege. What most people don't understand is that there is a silent hierarchy in the rap world. A code. And the men who sit at the top of that hierarchy, the true kings of the culture, rarely step into conflicts unless something threatens the balance. Jay-Z, 50 Cent, Diddy, at least before the scandals, Dr. Dre, Eminem. These are the architects of modern hip-hop. Their presence alone determines the temperature of the culture. But none of them get involved in petty disputes. Which is why Jay-Z stepping forward now means something serious is brewing. Because Jay-Z and 50 Cent aren't just two icons, they're two pillars who rose from entirely different worlds. 50 Cent, the bulletproof warrior from Southside Jamaica, Queens, molded by violence, betrayal, and loss. Jay-Z, the smooth, controlled, strategic mogul from Marcy Projects, whose mind is sharper than any sword. Their history hasn't always been clean. There were times when they traded subliminals. Times when 50 mocked Jay for staying calm. Times when Jay subtly warned people to chill before 50 finishes their career. But behind the scenes, what kept them from becoming enemies was respect. Real, unshakable, unspoken respect. Because Jay-Z knew 50 was dangerous. And 50 knew Jay-Z was powerful. What binds them even deeper is something the public rarely talks about, their shared understanding of loss. Jay-Z lost close friends to street violence. 50 lost his mother and nearly his own life. They both know the pain of watching loved ones vanish before you ever succeed. So when word reached Jay-Z that T.I.'s son had mocked 50 Cent's mother's grave, something inside him snapped, not out of loyalty, but out of principle. Because Jay-Z has always understood something the younger generation is forgetting. If the dead aren't respected, the culture collapses. Sources are claiming Jay-Z didn't move immediately. He waited. Observed. Tried to see if T.I. would step up and correct it. Tried to see if the situation would resolve privately. But T.I. didn't condemn the comment. Didn't discipline his son. Didn't apologize publicly. Didn't call 50 behind the scenes. He stayed quiet. Too quiet. And that silence told Jay-Z everything he needed to know. One insider said it perfectly. Jay felt T.I. lost control of his house, his son, and his responsibility as a man. Because Jay-Z isn't just an artist, he's a father. And he's a father who protects his family fiercely. So seeing another father allow his son to say something that vile about someone else's mother, and say nothing, Jay-Z took that personally. Let's rewind the timeline for context. Back when T.I. and 50 had playful friction years ago, Jay-Z stepped in once behind the scenes and told both men to chill. At the time, neither of them crossed any personal line. It was just ego and rap energy. But this is different. This is a son disrespecting the foundation of another man's existence. This is a slap in the face not just to 50 Cent, but to the code. That's why Jay-Z knew he had to step in. Not because he wanted beef. Not because he wanted drama. But because the culture was watching, and the OGs were being tested. People forget this, Jay-Z helped shape the entire image of maturity in hip-hop. He's the reason respect, boundaries, and legacy still have weight. He's the reason people see hip-hop as more than street chaos. So when King Harris crossed the line, Jay-Z saw it as more than an insult, he saw it as a threat to the culture's stability. But here's the deeper, darker layer. Jay-Z and 50 Cent share a private bond very few people know about. Back in the early 2000s, long before the fame, before Beyoncé, before power, before multi-million-dollar empires, Jay-Z witnessed firsthand the trauma 50 carried from losing his mother. Stories he never repeated publicly. Pain he never mocked. Vulnerabilities only a few men on earth knew. So to see T.I.'s son weaponize that pain? Jay-Z wasn't just offended. He was enraged. But Jay-Z doesn't rant. Jay-Z doesn't go live. Jay-Z doesn't tweet. Jay-Z doesn't argue with kids online. Jay-Z sends messages. Quiet ones. Powerful ones. Ones that shake the room without making a sound. And according to sources, multiple sources, Jay-Z sent a message so cold, so sharpened, so unmistakably final, that T.I.'s entire camp went into emergency mode. One insider described the moment like this. Jay didn't yell. Jay didn't threaten. Jay simply told him, "Fix your house before someone else does." Those 8 words sent chills across the industry. Because when Jay-Z says something like that, it isn't a suggestion. It isn't advice. It isn't commentary. It's a warning. But it gets even deeper. Because leaks suggest Jay-Z didn't just address King Harris. He addressed T.I. himself, directly. Privately. Sternly. With the tone of a man who has run the culture for 2 decades. And whatever Jay-Z said behind closed doors was so powerful, so uncomfortable, so undeniably serious, that T.I.'s team allegedly held TWO emergency meetings, one with PR, one with management, trying to figure out how to respond without making things worse. Because Jay-Z's message wasn't just about disrespect. It was about control. About leadership. About the future of rap's next generation. Jay-Z was essentially telling T.I., "Your son crossed a line. Now you have to answer for it." And that expectation? That accountability? That weight? It's a burden T.I. was not prepared for. Not after the 50 Cent drama. Not after the whispers about his reputation. Not after the recent controversies surrounding his household. So when Jay-Z stepped in, it wasn't just a message. It was a shift. A rebalancing. A signal to the entire industry that the elders were watching, and they were done staying silent. But what exactly did Jay-Z say? What did the insiders hear? What detail was so chilling that T.I. reportedly went ghost for hours afterward? That's where the story sharpens into something even more shocking. And the truth behind Jay-Z's message? It's darker than anyone expected. The moment Jay-Z's message reached T.I.'s camp, the air changed. It wasn't loud, it wasn't public, it wasn't dramatic on the surface, but the ripple it created behind closed doors was nothing short of catastrophic. T.I. wasn't dealing with 50 Cent anymore. He wasn't dealing with internet trolls, bloggers, podcasters, or even King Harris' reckless behavior. He was dealing with Jay-Z. A man whose silence has more weight than most rappers' entire discographies. A man who doesn't move unless he intends to shift the entire culture. A man whose words aren't advice, they are destiny. And the worst part? T.I. wasn't prepared. According to insiders, T.I. received the message through a mutual connection, someone both he and Jay-Z trust, someone who rarely gets involved in disputes unless it's a matter of respect, principle, or cultural preservation. This person reportedly walked into T.I.'s studio, closed the door, lowered his voice, and delivered the message word for word. Fix your house before someone else does. Those 8 words hit T.I. harder than any diss track, any public call-out, any online dragging. Because when Jay-Z speaks in riddles, the meaning is usually lethal beneath the surface. But before T.I. could even respond, more information came in, information that made the situation 10 times worse. Because while T.I. was processing Jay-Z's warning, 50 Cent was far from done. Behind the scenes, 50 had already received Jay-Z's blessing. Not publicly. Not through a post. But through a quiet nod of approval, a signal that told 50. Do what you need to do. The culture is behind you. That alone sent a message through the industry that T.I. was in real trouble. But everything truly exploded when a leaked audio clip surfaced, allegedly recorded during a private conversation in T.I.'s own house just hours after Jay-Z's message hit. The audio was only 14 seconds long, heavily muffled, but one line was crystal clear. A frustrated voice, confirmed by multiple listeners as T.I. said, "He ain't gonna talk to me like I'm a child." The internet erupted. Fans immediately interpreted it as T.I. referring to Jay-Z. Others argued he meant King Harris. But insiders? They insisted it was Jay-Z. Because right after that line, you could hear a door slam, followed by King Harris shouting something incoherent in the background. And that's when the story took its first dark turn. Multiple sources confirmed that after receiving Jay-Z's chilling warning, T.I. confronted King Harris in private. Not calmly. Not as a father trying to teach a lesson. But as a man whose reputation, livelihood, and legacy were now in danger because of something his son said. One insider put it simply. Tip wasn't mad at the disrespect. He was mad at who saw it. Because when Jay-Z reacts, it means the entire industry is watching. Every partnership, every sponsorship, every brand, every executive, all waiting to see whether T.I. would handle the situation or let it destroy him. During the confrontation, King Harris reportedly doubled down, telling his father, "I said what I said. I'm grown. They can't tell me nothing." That line alone might have escalated things. But what came next shifted the conflict into dangerous territory. King Harris, in a moment of anger, reportedly said, "50 started it, I just finished it." When T.I. heard that, something inside him snapped. Because the truth, the real truth, was that this feud had layers the public never knew about. Layers involving old private conversations between T.I. and 50. Layers of competitive tension. Layers of miscommunication. Layers of unresolved disrespect from years ago. And now? All those buried issues were back. Because of a teenage outburst. But the biggest shock came when a second leak surfaced, a text message screenshot from someone allegedly inside T.I.'s circle. The message read, "Jay didn't call to talk. Jay called to warn. We gotta move carefully." The responses underneath were even worse. Tip has to make a statement. King messed up bad. 50 is waiting for him to slip. Jay said what he said. We can't ignore it. Screenshots went viral faster than anyone could contain them. It suddenly became very clear that this wasn't just a father-son argument. It was a cultural crisis. The younger generation didn't understand the weight of their actions. The older generation wasn't going to let the culture be disrespected. And T.I. was stuck between them, drowning. But the first major twist came just when fans thought the situation couldn't escalate further. A source close to Rock Nation whispered to a major blogger. Jay didn't send the message for 50. Jay sent it for King. Wait. What? This flipped the entire power dynamic upside down. Because if Jay-Z's message was not aimed at T.I., but at T.I.'s son, that meant the OGs were bypassing the father and speaking straight to the source of the disrespect. The implications were insane. Jay-Z was treating King Harris like a grown man. Not a kid. Not a rapper's son. Not an influencer. A man. Responsible for his own disrespect. But why? Why would Jay-Z direct a message at someone so young? Why skip T.I.? Why involve himself at all? Insiders explained it like this. Because King crossed a line even T.I. never crossed. Jay is protecting 50's legacy. This is bigger than beef, this is about respect for the dead. But the twist didn't end there. A new message leaked, supposedly from someone who overheard Jay-Z during a private dinner in Los Angeles. The message read, "I don't care who your father is. If you talk about a man's mother like that, you answer for it." Fans froze. Blogs froze. The entire culture froze. Because this wasn't Jay-Z defending 50. This wasn't Jay-Z attacking T.I. This wasn't Jay-Z trying to start beef. This was Jay-Z standing up for a cultural rule, a line even the most dangerous rappers never crossed. The dead are off limits. Suddenly, the first twist became clear. Jay-Z didn't intervene because he was choosing sides. He intervened because King Harris broke a sacred rule, and nobody was correcting him. But the twist had a second, even darker layer. Jay-Z's message wasn't the end. It was the beginning. Because according to one insider who spoke anonymously, Jay told someone privately, "If Tip won't discipline him, someone else will." Those 10 words terrified the industry. Because in hip-hop, discipline doesn't always mean violence. It can mean reputation, relationships, opportunities, access, protection, silence. If Jay-Z withdraws his respect from you, your career suffers. Your connections suffer. Your influence suffers. Your public standing collapses. And that incoming collapse, it had already begun. Sponsors were pulling back. Interview invitations were quietly being rescinded. Entertainment execs were distancing themselves. Rappers began unfollowing King Harris in real time. But the first twist wasn't just that Jay-Z had issued the warning. It was that the warning triggered 50 Cent to prepare something far worse. Something the world wasn't ready for. Something that involved King Harris. Something that involved T.I.'s home. Something that involved a side of this story nobody knew existed. Because right after Jay-Z's message leaked, 50 Cent posted a video clip of a graveyard. Zoomed in on a headstone. Captioned, "This ain't a joke." Fans were terrified. Celebrities were watching. T.I. was spiraling. King Harris was doubling down online. And Jay-Z? Jay-Z had already issued the warning. Now he was waiting to see whether T.I. listened. But the biggest twist is still coming, a twist so explosive it will flip the entire narrative and drag in powerful names nobody expected. Because Jay-Z didn't just send a message. He sent a second message. A message nobody was supposed to hear. A message that changes everything. The industry barely had time to process Jay-Z's first chilling message before the situation erupted into something far more dangerous, far more personal, and far more uncontrollable than anyone expected. Because while everyone assumed the warning was the end of Jay-Z's involvement, insiders now claim it was only the beginning. And the second message? The real message? The one Jay-Z never intended to go public. That's the one that flipped this situation into complete chaos. Before we get there, everything began unraveling when King Harris, instead of staying quiet, instead of reflecting, instead of apologizing, made the single worst decision of his life. He went live. At first, nobody noticed. Only a few hundred viewers. But within minutes, the stream exploded, thousands piling in as word spread that King was talking reckless again. But this time, it wasn't just trolling. It wasn't just ego. It wasn't just youthful stupidity. He doubled down on his disrespect. He smirked at the camera. Laughed at the backlash. Mocked the outrage. And then said the line that sent the hip-hop world spiraling. If he mad, he can pull up. Grave or no grave. The chat went insane. People begged him to stop. Some spammed warnings. Others recorded instantly. Nobody could believe he said it. Nobody could believe he took the disrespect even further. Nobody could believe he invoked the grave again. Within 30 seconds, blogs grabbed the clip. Within 60 seconds, 50 Cent himself saw it. Within 3 minutes, the clip hit Twitter and reached millions. And 50's response? A single post. A black background with white letters. Now Jay got to talk again. 5 words. That's all it took. Those 5 words shook the entire culture, because everybody understood what it meant. 50 Cent was stepping back. Jay-Z was stepping forward. And this was no longer family drama. This was a cultural correction, the OGs versus the reckless youth. But the real escalation began when a well-connected media insider posted a series of tweets claiming Jay-Z's second message had already been delivered privately, not to T.I., not to King Harris, but to someone far more influential. T.I.'s longtime business partners. The tweet read, "Jay didn't send a warning to Tip. He sent it to the people who keep Tip in business." Fans froze. Celebrities froze. The entire industry froze. Because if that was true, if Jay-Z was moving behind the scenes targeting sponsorships, partnerships, industry relationships, then this wasn't beef anymore. This was chess. Dangerous, career-ending chess. But the shocking reveal didn't stop there. Another leak emerged, this time from a private group chat involving multiple industry veterans. One message stood out. Hoff said the boy needs guidance. If Tip can't give it to him, he gonna learn the hard way. People lost their minds. What does that mean? What is the hard way? Is Jay-Z threatening him? Is he warning him? Is he predicting the industry's reaction? Then came the screenshot that really broke the internet. A message allegedly from someone connected to Roc Nation. Jay told him to make King apologize publicly before this becomes irreversible. Irreversible? The word echoed across hip-hop like a siren. Irreversible what? Damage? Relationships? Reputation? Career? People were terrified. But the biggest shock came next. Because as King Harris' live continued spiraling, someone in the comments typed, "Jay-Z is watching this. Get off live." King saw it. Rolled his eyes. Then said, "Man, Jay don't run nothing over here. Y'all scared." That moment, that single sentence, detonated across the internet. The room went silent. The chat froze. Even King paused, realizing immediately that he said something he couldn't take back. Because this time, he didn't just disrespect 50's mother. He didn't just disrespect 50. He disrespected Jay-Z. The man who built the bridges this industry walks on. The man whose quiet influence decides who rises and who falls. The man whose word is more powerful than labels, radio, and streaming platforms combined. This wasn't disrespect. This was suicide. But the story gets even darker. Because minutes after King Harris ended the live abruptly, a mysterious audio leak surfaced on social media. Someone had recorded a phone call between two high-profile executives discussing the situation. The audio was grainy, distorted, but the message was clear. Jay is pissed. He said Tip needs to get control now. He said the boy doesn't understand who he's playing with. Then the most chilling line. If Hoff steps in again, someone's career is getting clipped. Fans couldn't believe what they were hearing. People started panicking. The idea of Jay-Z clipping a career wasn't metaphorical, it was literal. He has done it before. Quietly. Effortlessly. Without ever raising his voice. But the real shocking twist arrived when a known whistleblower account posted. Jay-Z's second message was not verbal. It was financial. Attached was a screenshot, allegedly showing a major entertainment company pausing negotiations with T.I.'s team for a project scheduled later this year. Reason for the pause? Internal review pending public controversy. The timing was too perfect. Too precise. Too connected to be coincidence. People realized instantly. Jay-Z wasn't angry. Jay-Z was activating influence. But the most terrifying revelation came when a well-respected industry manager posted anonymously. Jay's message wasn't meant to punish. It was meant to protect. Protect who? 50 Cent? Hip-hop culture? The legacy of the old generation? No. The next line clarified everything. He's trying to protect King before the streets react. The streets. Suddenly the entire narrative twisted. Jay-Z wasn't threatening King. He was warning T.I. that other people outside the celebrity bubble, were getting irritated by King's disrespect toward the dead. A chilling detail emerged. A group in Atlanta was reportedly disgusted by King's comments and had already begun circulating threats. Jay-Z knew. Jay-Z heard. Jay-Z stepped in to prevent something irreversible, not reputationally, but physically. This was bigger than rap. Bigger than beef. Bigger than Jay-Z, 50 Cent, or T.I. This was about honor in the streets, and King Harris had broken a rule he didn't understand. But then came the second twist, the one nobody saw coming. Because while King was spiraling out of control on live, while T.I. was scrambling behind the scenes, while industry insiders whispered about Jay-Z's second message, 50 Cent posted a short video. Not trolling. Not laughing. Not joking. A rare, serious clip of him looking into the camera saying, "The kid don't know what he started. But his father knows. And now, so does Jay." The video ended. No captions. No hashtags. Nothing. The seriousness in 50's tone terrified fans. This wasn't a joke anymore. This wasn't entertainment. This was a warning. A final one. But the true cliffhanger arrived when a final leak dropped, a screenshot of a private email sent between two executives. The subject line? Meeting request, J, 50, tip. Jay-Z. 50 Cent. T.I. In. 1. Room. The body of the email? Urgent. This cannot wait. The internet exploded. Fans screamed. Nobody could believe what was happening. 3 of hip-hop's most powerful men. 1 issue. 1 disrespect. 1 son whose reckless actions created a war. But the email ended with one final line. Jay wants King present. The world stopped. Jay-Z didn't just want to talk to T.I. He didn't want to negotiate. He didn't want to settle anything behind closed doors. He wanted King Harris in the room, to face the consequences directly. And that is where everything changes. Because whatever happens in that meeting will determine the future of the Harris family, 50 Cent's next move, and the entire direction of hip-hop's generational divide. And the craziest part? The meeting is happening soon. The moment the leaked email suggesting a face-to-face meeting between Jay-Z, 50 Cent, T.I., and King Harris hit the internet, the culture went into complete meltdown. Not partial. Not moderate. Complete meltdown. Hip-hop hadn't seen this level of tension since the early 2000s, and even then, the stakes never felt this volatile, this personal, or this dangerously unpredictable. Within minutes, every major social platform became a battleground of emotions, confusion, fear, excitement, and flat-out hysteria. Fans didn't know whether to celebrate the potential conflict resolution, or panic at the thought of three of the most powerful men in hip-hop locking themselves in a room with a teenager who had no idea what level of danger he'd created. Twitter was the first platform to explode. The top hashtags within 15 minutes included #J50TI, #King Harris Meeting, #Disrespect the Dead, #OGS Assemble, #Fix Your House. Millions of people were tweeting simultaneously. Some were laughing. Some were begging for peace. Some were praying for King Harris. Others were demanding that Jay-Z set him straight. One viral tweet with over 1.2 million likes read, "King Harris really talked so crazy that Jay-Z himself clocked into work. That's insane." Another user added, "If Hov wants a meeting, that means the smoke is already in the air." A third tweet, more serious, captured the cultural tone. "Jay-Z ain't doing this for 50. He's doing it for the culture. We watching a rite of passage in real time." But as ordinary fans fought in the comments, the reaction that really set the internet ablaze came from other celebrities, especially those who had long-standing relationships with T.I., 50, and Jay-Z. A legendary West Coast rapper posted, "There's rules out here. Lines you don't cross. This had to happen." An OG from the South added, "Tip my brother, but he gotta handle this. When the elders talk, you listen." A veteran New York rapper wrote, "Jay stepping in means this ain't no little situation. This about respect for the dead." And perhaps the most chilling reaction came from a female rap icon, someone who rarely comments on male rapper beef. "If Hov wants the boy in the meeting, it's already too deep." That line spread like wildfire, triggering intense debates. Why does Jay want King there? Is this a fatherhood correction? Is this discipline? Is Jay trying to save him or break him? Is King ready for a room with 50 and Jay? Nobody had answers, not yet. But fans agreed on one thing. King Harris was walking into the most intimidating room of his life. And the question swirling everywhere was, will T.I. even allow his son to attend? Then, as if the universe wanted to fuel the drama further, a new leak appeared online, this time from someone claiming to work inside T.I.'s PR team. The message read, "We were not prepared for this. Jay asking for King to attend changed everything. Tip is furious and scared at the same time." The words "furious" and "scared" ignited the internet instantly. Because T.I. is not easily scared. He's faced street wars. He's faced federal cases. He's faced public scandals. He's faced rappers coming for his throne. But Jay-Z? Jay-Z carries a different kind of weight. This wasn't fear of violence. This was fear of consequences. Fear of industry exile. Fear of losing respect from the most influential man in hip-hop. The blogs had a field day. T.I. conflicted after Jay-Z summoned son to private meeting. Industry insiders say Jay-Z won't take no for an answer. 50 Cent says the meeting must happen, he asked for this. Yes, 50 Cent publicly commented. In a shocking twist, 50 went live briefly, smirking into the camera, saying, "Y'all think I'm the one he need to be scared of?" He said something about my mama. That ain't my problem no more. Jay got this. That clip broke the internet. Fans realized what 50 meant. He wasn't the punisher. He wasn't the disciplinarian. He was stepping back. Because Jay-Z had stepped forward. This wasn't a situation where 50 Cent wanted a fade, or a diss track, or payback. This was now a cultural violation requiring OG intervention. On TikTok, creators made dramatic reenactments, comedic skits, emotional pleas, and long breakdowns of what might happen in the meeting. Videos hit millions of views instantly. One viral TikTok said, "King Harris about to learn what happens when you play disrespect games with men who actually built the culture you're clout chasing in." Another video with 5 million views stated, "Jay-Z calling a meeting is like your teacher calling your parents and your principal. It's over." But the reactions weren't all jokes. Some fans expressed genuine fear for King. "I really hope this doesn't break him. He's just a kid in over his head. Someone needs to help King before it goes too far. T.I. should have stopped him a long time ago." Even Charlemagne Tha God subtly weighed in, saying, "Youth do too much online because they think actions don't have consequences. But OGs like Hoff show you that everything has consequences." And then came the moment that really pushed the narrative over the edge. A well-known Rock Nation affiliate posted a cryptic message. "This ain't punishment. This is correction." Fans debated endlessly. Correction from who? Correction for what? What level of correction? Is this about respecting elders? Is Jay showing him how the real world works? But the most haunting reaction came from someone in 50 Cent's inner circle. They wrote, "When Jay speaks, everyone listens. Even Tip knows he can't dodge this meeting." That statement sent chills down everyone's spine. Because the truth was finally sinking in. T.I. didn't have a choice. King didn't have a choice. The meeting was happening, whether they wanted it or not. But then, something unexpected happened. A final leak dropped late at night, a DM exchange between two unnamed but verified artists. The message read, Jay's second message was worse than the first. The reply. What did he say? The answer. He said, if the boy won't learn respect, he'll learn consequences. The internet froze. Respect or consequences. Those were the only two options Jay-Z offered. And the entire world knew. King Harris wasn't ready for either one. But the biggest cultural reaction, the moment that made fans realize this situation was spiraling far beyond anyone's control, came when a reporter revealed. The meeting location has changed twice because of security concerns. Security. For a conversation. That's how serious this had become. Jay-Z. 50 Cent. T.I. King Harris. 4 people. 1 room. 1 enormous cultural violation. 1 attempt at correction. 1 opportunity for redemption or destruction. And according to multiple insiders, the meeting is scheduled within the next 48 hours. No cameras. No phones. No entourage. No excuses. And what happens in that room will change everything. In the final hours leading up to the private meeting, the one every rapper was whispering about, the one fans were counting down to like a world-ending event, a strange, suffocating tension settled over the culture. Nobody knew where exactly the meeting would take place. Nobody knew who requested the final location change. Nobody knew whether T.I. or King Harris would even show up. But everybody knew one thing. Jay-Z wasn't playing anymore. And neither was 50 Cent. The silence from both men felt intentional, strategic, and terrifying. 50 didn't post a single troll video all day. Jay-Z didn't move publicly at all. Even Beyoncé's fan pages stopped posting, the entire internet was frozen, waiting, watching. But behind the scenes, something huge was happening. And it all began with a rumored phone call, a call so serious that multiple insiders confirmed the tone, even if they couldn't confirm the exact words. It was between Jay-Z and someone very close to T.I. One insider said. Jay's voice didn't raise. But the fear in the room did. But the real shocker, the real twist, the moment that flipped the entire narrative into a new direction, came when a highly trusted entertainment reporter broke a story that nobody could have predicted. Jay-Z requested the meeting not for discipline, but for protection. Protection. That one word changed everything. Fans immediately assumed Jay wanted to protect King from the backlash, protect T.I.'s family from industry exile, or protect 50 from crossing a line publicly. No. The truth was much darker. According to the report, Jay-Z had received intel that people outside the music industry were now involved. Not executive pressure. Not brand pressure. Not media backlash. Street pressure. People who didn't appreciate the disrespect. People who don't make threats, they make examples. People who believe some lines can only be corrected through consequences. And apparently, those people were already talking. Jay-Z got word first. Jay-Z stepped in first. Jay-Z demanded the meeting first. Because whether the internet believes it or not, Jay-Z holds influence far beyond Spotify streams and boardrooms. His network reaches corners of the world that most rappers have never stepped foot in. When he moves, it's not hype, it's survival. And in this case, survival meant getting King Harris in a safe place, immediately. But the twist deepened even further. Because another insider claimed that the meeting wasn't about talking. It was about choosing sides. Jay-Z allegedly gave T.I. a warning. If you can't protect your son from himself, someone else will. And they won't do it the way you think. That message, quiet, calm, chilling, was the reason T.I. reportedly went into complete panic mode. But the true explosion of the night came when an anonymous Atlanta insider released a statement of their own. Someone from the streets made a call. They said King's words can't go unanswered. Jay stepped in because he knows what happens next if he doesn't. This wasn't rap anymore. This wasn't drama. This wasn't clout chasing. This was danger. Real danger. And suddenly, the entire internet realized. Jay-Z wasn't punishing King. Jay-Z wasn't threatening King. Jay-Z wasn't correcting King. Jay-Z was trying to save King. But then, just when it seemed like the narrative had reached its peak, a final, unexpected leak dropped. One that sent the entire hip-hop world into utter panic. A screenshot of what appeared to be Jay-Z's private message to a senior industry figure. It read, "If Tip doesn't bring him, the meeting doesn't matter." Wait. What? This wasn't about T.I. anymore. This wasn't about 50 Cent. This wasn't about apologies. This was about King Harris. He was the centerpiece. He was the reason. He was the problem. And the priority. But then came the most chilling line of all, the part that shook the entire industry to its knees. I can't protect him if he's not in the room. Protect him from what? From WHO? The internet exploded. Speculation went wild. Is someone coming after King? Is Jay trying to save him from himself? Why is this so serious? What does Jay know that we don't? Why does King need to be in the room? And just as panic hit its peak, a new rumor surfaced, this time from a source close to 50 Cent. A small post. Just one line. But it shattered the internet completely. 50 knows who made the call. The call. The one from the streets. The one that triggered Jay-Z's emergency warning. The one that meant this situation was no longer entertainment. And the source added one more horrifying sentence. If King doesn't show up, they will. Fans froze. Comments stopped. Creators went silent. Blogs paused posting. This wasn't beef. This wasn't trolling. This wasn't rap politics. This was life and death. But the final twist, the one that ended the night in pure dread, came when a blurry photo leaked. Jay-Z, 50 Cent, and an empty fourth chair. The caption: waiting. That empty chair? It had one name on it: King Harris. If he shows up, he faces the OGs. He learns the truth. He hears what Jay and 50 know. If he doesn't show up, then something far worse is waiting for him outside that room. And the scariest part? The meeting is happening tonight. What happens next? Nobody knows. Because the next move is on T.I. and King. And now, here we are, standing at the edge of the biggest generational confrontation hip-hop has seen in years. A meeting room with three giants already seated: Jay-Z, 50 Cent, and T.I., waiting in silence, staring at an empty chair with one name on it: King Harris. The world is watching. The industry is whispering. The streets are listening. One teenager's words have triggered the most powerful names in the culture, and now everything comes down to this moment. Will King Harris walk into that room tonight? Will T.I. bring him, or protect him? Will Jay-Z deliver the message everyone's afraid to hear? Will 50 Cent stay calm, or unleash the storm? Will this meeting fix the situation, or expose a deeper truth none of us saw coming? Because the next move isn't just a fallout. It's a crossroad. For King. For T.I. For 50. For the OGs. For the entire culture. And the craziest part? We don't know what's waiting on the other side of that closed door. So now I want you, the viewers, the fans, the heartbeat of this channel, to weigh in. Right now, go to the comments and tell me. White right pointing backhand index: should King Harris face Jay-Z and 50 Cent in that room? White right pointing backhand index: is this a lesson he needs to learn, or a situation too dangerous for him? White right pointing backhand index: was Jay-Z right for stepping in? White right pointing backhand index: is T.I. handling this as a father, or failing as a leader? White right pointing backhand index: and most importantly, what do you think will happen when all four of them finally meet face to face? Drop your theories, your predictions, your warnings, your opinions, everything. I'm reading every single comment. And trust me, this story is far from over. If you're locked in, if your heart was racing during this breakdown, if you need to know what happens inside that meeting, then hit like, smash subscribe, and turn on all notifications, because the second the next leak drops, whether it's a photo, an audio clip, a witness account, or a full breakdown of the confrontation, you know I'll be here to break it down frame by frame. This is bigger than beef. Bigger than disrespect. Bigger than hip-hop. This is history in the making. And the next chapter? It's coming sooner than you think. Stay ready. Because after tonight, nothing will ever be the same.